you don't show up for a meeting that you're supposed to be on and they reach out to you telling you that you need to be on that meeting. I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with taking a meeting off of my calendar and then saying, hey guys, I'm sorry. I messed up. I deleted that recurring meeting. I'll get it back on my calendar or resend that invite. So how many meetings do you go to in a week that are an absolute waste of your time? Just count them up. Is it 4? Is it 10? How many? Because I don't know about you, but half of my meetings on my calendar, they just absolutely suck. There's no purpose to them. There's no reason why they're even on the calendar. Half the time, they can be solved in an email. And I know one of the things that I absolutely hate, and I guarantee you do as well, is when you waste my time. So today, we're going to talk about how to get those meetings back on track. Make sure, 1, that the meeting itself is needed. And then 2, I'm going to give you a tried and true process that I use for all of my meetings, all of my strategic planning sessions. You can use them for a 30-minute meeting all the way up to a 3-day meeting, and it works. So stick with me. Hey everyone, John here. 20 years of building team. I absolutely love being around people. And if I'm going to spend time, my precious time, around the ones that you admire, that you respect, that you mentor and coach, I can promise you I'm going to make the best of it. So this episode is going to be centered around how to conduct meetings. And do we even need the meeting in the first place? Because in the end, when you look back at your calendar, say on a Friday, and you're looking ahead to that next week, I don't know how many meetings we actually need. This discussion came up last week when peer manager and I were having a conversation, and I'm out next week going on travel for business, and she's covering me. And we pulled up the calendar, and she said, okay, what meetings do I need to back you up on? And I shared my screen. My meetings were color-coded. That's one trick that we're going to talk about. And I was quickly able to say, okay, these are the 3 meetings next week that you absolutely need to be there. The rest of these meetings, they can go on without you. And she said, well, how can you tell? And we dove into what we're going to talk about today, because at the end of the day, if you can relay that information, if you can create a dashboard that gets project status, why are you going to sit in the meeting to discuss that? So let's talk about my meeting audit. Meeting audits are very important, especially when you may not control your own calendar. I don't know how many of you out there that are listening, if you can control your own calendar, good, because the more you move up in an organization, a lot of times you get an assistant that helps control your calendar, or you give people access to your calendar to put meetings on there. And half of this stuff, you don't know where it comes from. But that's why it's important to do a meeting audit, because a lot of times you'll be invited to a recurring meeting. And I don't know about you, but I have a laptop, I got a cell phone, I got an iPad that I work off of. And a lot of times I'm there working, reviewing a document, and a meeting notification pops up, and I just hit accept. Just a quick pause in our episode. This might be exactly what you need to hear. If you're currently leading a team, or you want to lead a team, and you're spending your days putting out fires, you're not failing, you're just stuck. Because when everything feels urgent, nothing actually improves. And over time, that starts to chip away at our confidence as a leader. I've led teams under pressure for years, and firefighting isn't about effort, it's about those missing leadership systems. When expectations are clear and ownership is real, our teams, they stop reacting, and they start solving problems without us. So if you're ready to lead instead of react, click on the link below, book a call, check out our consulting programs. All right, back to the episode. Sound familiar? But honestly, I don't know what I just accepted. I just wanted to get that pop-up out of the way and to get on with whatever I was doing. I don't know if that's you, but if it is, you got to go in and make sure that whatever you just accepted is relevant, is worth your time, and has some purpose to it. So, one of the things I like to do every 90 days, I work in these 90-day sprints and I coach and I mentor others on them. Take a 90-day outlook of your reoccurring meetings. And I don't know what, a lot of the different email calendaring, it'll allow you to just filter your recurring meetings. So let's focus on just your recurring meetings right now. First things first, if you are the one setting up a recurring meeting, I do it in 90-day chunks. There's that to infinity button that is defaulted in a lot of our recurring meetings and a lot of like Outlook and Gmail. Uncheck that button. If you got to go into the back settings, uncheck it. Do not have reoccurring meetings that go on for infinity. I do mine in 90 days. You can do yours in 6 months. I wouldn't do a reoccurring meeting anything outside of 6 months because a lot of things can change in 6 months. So, take a look at the next 90 days worth of reoccurring meetings. And I want you to just audit them. Is this something that I really need to be involved in? Another question I like to ask myself, am I leading the meeting? Is this my reoccurring meeting? Or is this meeting something that initially I was involved with and now I've passed that off or I've brought somebody up to speed and I no longer have to be in that meeting? Those are the 3 questions that you should ask yourself. And if the answer to those 3 questions is no, take yourself off that recurring meeting. Now, don't just delete it off your calendar. What I normally do is I give them a heads up. Just a quick note. Hey, so-and-so, I'm dropping this meeting off my calendar. You got it. I don't think you need me anymore. If you need me in the future, just send me an email, invite me to a meeting, maybe one of the ones down the road, and I'd be more than happy to jump on. That's it. Simple as that. Then delete it off your calendar. If it goes 2 weeks, 3 weeks, in status quo, you haven't heard anything, it was probably the right move. Now, I have gotten into situations where I delete a reoccurring meeting, and a week later, they're like, hey, John, where you at? You know, I'm getting IM'd on Teams chat or on Slack, and I'm like, oops, yeah, I need to be on that meeting. But that's the fail-safe, right? That is the worst-case scenario. You don't show up for a meeting that you're supposed to be on, and they reach out to you telling you that you need to be on that meeting. I'm okay with that. I'm 100% okay with taking a meeting off of my calendar and then saying, hey, guys, I'm sorry. I messed up. I deleted that recurring meeting. I'll get it back on my calendar or resend that invite. So that meeting audit, start with your recurring meetings first. Then take a look at anything that you put on your calendar future. And one of the things that I learned from one of my coaches, we schedule out 2 meetings, just her and I, in advance. I meet with them about 3 to 4 weeks, every 3 to 4 weeks. So we'll look out. Why do we do that? And I found that that is the most beneficial to me, especially in a coaching or one-on-one environment, especially those one-on-one meetings. You don't know what's going to change. Something may pop up. Like next week, this was unplanned travel. I'm going to be out of the office all week, right? It was on my calendar and I was able to reschedule that meeting for next week. That is something that is really important because now you're not wasting each other's time. The last thing I want to do is waste somebody else's time by having to reschedule a meeting that I probably should have had far in advance notice to reschedule myself. So look at those meetings that are 2 to 3 weeks out and determine if you need to be on them. The last thing for a meeting audit, and I wrote this down, I want you to evaluate the 3 Ps, and I'm going to call it PPC. Most of the time, there's a purpose to a meeting. What's the process for that meeting? And then what's the preparation that you need or the content that you need to have that meeting? And that's the second part that we're going to get into, because agendas aren't enough. Too many times I get an agenda and it says, what? Discuss current items, discuss future items, maybe an action list or decision chart, decisions that were made, but that's pretty much it. It's a rolling kind of agenda that you have. And when you walk into the meeting, my goodness, those bullet points on that agenda, they could mean a lot of different things. And I don't know about you, but I like to be prepared especially when I'm leading a meeting, much less when I'm attending a meeting that I need to be attending and add valuable content. So let's dig into this 3P, purpose, process, and preparation model that I use for pretty much every single one of my meetings, and it is a home run every single time. So purpose. Every single meeting on your calendar needs to have a purpose. Now you ask yourself, John, why do I need a purpose to my meetings? Because in the end of the day, if you're meeting just to meet, that's a waste of everybody's time. Send it in an email. So is the purpose, and here's some examples that I wrote down, is it to update on a project? Now, remember, I said if you can do that in a dashboard or a status dashboard or a status sheet or a tracking sheet, whatever you want, do it in there. But if you're having a meeting solely to just update status and go around the room and say, okay, where are you on this and where are you on that? Wrong. We're going to talk about why the process is very important when you have a purposeful meeting around updating projects. Another purpose could be determining the priority. There's a lot of times where you got multiple projects on the plate and that priority can change from week to week. So that would be another great purpose to have a meeting. So let's talk about process. I want to go back to that update meeting status or update project status purpose. So if that is your purpose for the meeting, the process is going to outline how you're going to achieve that purpose. So for example, if it's to update project status, the process for my update project status meetings are who do you need or what do you need from who? It's not, hey, yeah, I'm 75% complete and, I have these things left to do and these things are left to complete. Put that on a project's tracking sheet, period. What I want to hear from you is who do you need what from who? Is there something that has been delayed or delaying the project because you need something from someone? And it may be internal to the team or it may be external to the team. Roadblocks. That's another important thing that you should probably update the team on. And a lot of times what I found is if it's a roadblock and that other person is in the room, maybe it fell off their plate. Oh my goodness, mistakes happen, right? But you can solve it right there in that meeting. That's what a purposeful update project status meeting is. Another one, make decisions. Now, you may say, John, I can make decisions in an email. Yeah, but how many emails does it take to actually make decisions, especially if you got a very analytical person that's making that decision? They're going to want data. They're going to want it in a certain way. And they're going to probably have 2 to 3 follow-up questions. That's 5 emails. And I don't know about you, but the other thing that I hate sitting in meetings that I don't need to be in is checking emails that could have been settled in a 5 to 15-minute meeting. So the process of decision is important to understand or make the participants understand also what's the decision framework. So what are we deciding? And what's the criteria that we're going to make that decision? Why is that important? Because when we get into the preparation part, I want them to bring the top 3 and 1 recommendation. So what are the 3 options and what's that 1 recommendation? But if they don't know that, and now you're halfway into a meeting and you're asking them to do that, you're going to have people in there that are process oriented or like me, they got to think. a little bit on it. You're going to get some spontaneous decision makers in there, but for people that got to sit on some data and then make a decision or come up with 3 options and 1 recommendation, that's going to take some time. So let them know that's what is the decision framework in the first place. That way they come prepared and that meeting turns into a meaningful meeting. Another one, brainstorm. I've seen this a lot in processes. Maybe you have a new project and you're trying to figure out a work breakdown of all the activities. A recent one that we just had was a data inventory. What are all the tool sets that we use across our area and what's the purpose? Who owns them? What are they connected to? What are their outputs? But I gave that information to the meeting attendees prior to, through the process piece of that meeting, for them to understand what exactly we were going to step through. Don't pop it on them the first thing, or don't put it into an agenda to where they're not going to look at it. This very structured purpose, process, and preparation, once you get your team used to it, they're going to ask for it. You're going to send them a meeting invite and they're going to ask you, hey, John, what's the purpose of this meeting? And how are we going to achieve that purpose, the process of it? And do I need to prep any? Now is a time where you've got them ingrained so they come prepared to the meetings and you don't have a bunch of people just sitting on their phones or tapping on the keyboard, not engaging. Because again, that time needs to be meaningful time well spent. So that's the process piece. Let's talk about the preparation or the content. How do you want them to prepare? We talked a little bit about earlier on the updates. Tell them, come with who you want from who or what you need from who. That's a question. Put out your decision framework. 3 options, 1 recommendation, right? What do they need to prepare? Review the prospectus, review the document, review the data. Whatever that looks like, tell them what you want them to do. And then spell it out. Do they need to, understand the last 5 emails that were sent out so that way we can make a decision without sending out 5 more emails? Do they need to review some? That piece, the preparation, and then the reason why I add content is tell them what they need to look at or attach it to the meeting invite. So that way everybody has the same version and you don't have 10 versions floating out there that everyone's trying to make a decision on or come up with a decision framework or a recommendation. Put it all in that meeting invite, purpose, process, and preparation content. Those things are going to make your meetings rock solid. Audit your meetings. Purpose, process, content, or preparation. Ensure that those 2 things that you do those every single time you schedule a meeting, you got to have the 3 Ps. Every 90 days, you're doing a meeting audit of your calendar. Because if I look at my calendar the first time, one of the clients come to me and they're like, I don't have time. Let's pull up your calendar. Because I promise you, there are meetings, there are things that you have on that calendar that you no longer need to attend. I hope this helped somebody today. If you haven't subscribed, click on that subscribe button. These episodes are going to be 1 problem and 1 solution. We're going to keep them short. We're going to keep them bite-sized. I know everyone's out there is busy. I appreciate it. Subscription to this podcast allows the message to get out to more leaders just like yourself and does me a tremendous favor. It's by basically saying, hey, John, thanks for the information. Absolutely free. If somebody hasn't told you this today, I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to everyone on the next episode.